Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Council on Future Conflict, episode 463. California burning, kind of like California dreaming, but not. And then the U.S. expansion. So we're going to be talking some topical stuff today. It's not like a domestic show per se, but a lot of domestic stuff that we'll be talking about. So we'll kind of see where it goes. Joe is doing a Bible study right now, so he will be joining us in a bit. So hopefully we've got some stuff we want to get Joe's thoughts on. So if we need to circle back around to anything, we will. Just keep that in mind. And when he's able to show up in the chat, just let us know, and we'll make sure we pick Joe's brains. Um, Joining me as always, Watcher. How you doing, brother?
Doing excellent. My wife just dropped off dinner. Pork tonkatsu for the win. Excited for another good show.
Well, I want to apologize about Monday because we were all lined up, ready to go and do the show. Watcher was there, Joe was there, and I was there, but I was on my phone because we were in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, getting my daughter moved into college, into her dorm for her first day in school. By the way, that was today, and she said it was good. So there's that. Um, and I mean, Watcher. I mean, it was like every it was like every 2 minutes, like I would lose connection with you guys. Like not like get totally dropped, but I would
No,
you
you would.
couldn't
It'd
hear
drop
me.
you. We couldn't
And
hear
then
anything
I
you
get
said.
yeah, I guess I was getting dropped too. But yeah, so we just decided literally at the last minute um to nix the show because it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And then guess what happened? So like we kept talking after we made that call, and I don't think I dropped one time after we we called the show. Uh Irony of all ironies. Well, but that's how it works, right? Watcher, you say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to do something," and then the thing that keeps you from doing something stops.
Pretty much.
It's like you call the cable guy and say, "Hey, my cable TV doesn't work." It just kind of it comes on for 5 minutes and the cable goes out, and then he shows up, and then all of a sudden the cable works fine, and So anyway, so that was Monday. So apologies that we weren't able to. Hold on a second. Uh,
Uh-oh. I don't know if I dropped out or Scott dropped out. In the interest of dead air, can anyone hear me? Ah, so it is just me. It's the Watcher show now. I guess so. Well, hey guys. I'm not sure what just happened with Scott, but hopefully we'll have him back here in a second. Um, but yeah, it's oh no, there he goes. It's it's good to see you guys. I'm pretty sure that's mostly where he was going with that. Oh, here he is.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back, Scott.
Just as I'm talking about dropping off, I drop off. Just so you know, that was my fault. I didn't have the laptop plugged in, and it literally gave me 2 seconds to get it. When I got the warning that I was low battery. So anyway, yes.
You made it. Uh-oh. Oh no, he's gone again.
Uh,
Oh, there he is.
can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
I gotta turn. I just restarted my computer, and I gotta dis. All right, that should be better. I disconnected the VPN, and I'm doing all the kind of computer startup bullshit. All right, sorry about that, guys. Where were we, Watcher, before we were so rudely interrupted?
Probably about to move
Uh,
into our first odds and ends.
all right, yeah. So anyway, yeah, it was fun. It was kind of funny on Monday, and now that's been funny on Wednesday. But the good news is I have good connection today, and you know, I have a decent connection, and everything should work. All right, Watcher. Anything you want to get off
No,
your chest?
no, I'm ready to move into the news, man.
All right, let's do it then. The news has been weird lately. I mean, because we've got a lot of stories. Like, there's some new stuff like all the Trump related stuff is kind of new, right? Because these are new topics that nobody was talking about a month ago, but now all of a sudden they're like getting headlines. And then we've also got some of the old standards like California fires, right? And shockingly enough, they all have a connect back to Trump. So this has been an interesting thing. We were talking on Monday. This first story kind of gets to what we were talking about on Monday. On Monday, we were talking after we canked the show that we were talking about how the topic of the British grooming gang, rape gangs, overwhelmed, kind of took the spotlight away from the H-1B visa debate. Now, like I'll be honest with you, um, I'm not super invested in the H-1B visa debate. I think anytime you've got foreigners taking American jobs is a bad thing, but I think this is one of those complicated issues. And like I think there was definitely an op here, Watcher. And you know, for those people who say, "Oh, well, Elon's just talking about all this UK rape gang stuff because he's tired of getting his ass handed to him," over the well, no, I don't know that it's that. I know that he just realizes that the H-1B visa debate was a bad, was bad for everybody, and he changed the topic. Now, I also think this is a very legitimate issue, and he had been tweeting about Tommy Robinson for a while, but it never really picked up, but it finally has. And so Kira Starmer is just he is absolute. What's a Starmer? Let's see. Let's jump into this one, and we'll find out together, shall we? UK Starmer, he's the prime minister, by the way, dismisses rape gang outrage as a far right bandwagon. Well, there is some bandwagoning to it, but this has been an issue. Like Watcher, I know you've known all about Tommy Robinson and his issues. I mean, I followed him going back to I want to say like the 2016 election. That time frame is when I started kind of following Tommy Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't really interested so much in the whole kind of trendy alt right that was so big in 2015, 2016. But Tommy Robinson, like he kind of spoke to me as a Afghan Iraq war vet. Having dealt personally with both good Muslims and bad Muslims. So that
Mm-hmm.
was that future conflicts with the Watcher special guest Scott McCullough. Yeah, thank you, Hunch. Appreciate that vote of confidence for $5 there. Smart ass. Anyway, so this has been an issue for a long time. And now one of the things that's coming up that I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know this is Starmer's kind of his role in all the stuff that was going on in the cover up that was going on in the UK back at
Well, yeah, he was the one who ultimately made the decision not to prosecute like a lot of these cases that we talk about.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah, like I knew that those decisions were being made. I just didn't know who made that call, and now, I'm like, oh, well, he did it. Okay. Hmm. Um. All right. After the news broke that UK safeguarding minister Jess Phillips blocked a public inquiry into the country's prolific rape gangs. By the way, there was a vote, and they voted not to do any sort of kind of investigation into the rape gangs. Very convenient for Keir Starmer and the Liberals in the UK. It says here, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who allegedly covered for Jimmy Savile, who is well known as being on the BBC, and it was well known that he was a rapist on the. I mean, that goes back to like Johnny Rotten was calling out Jimmy Savile back in like the late '70s. When he was actually raping all those kids, and they I think he assaulted over 500 children. Anyway, Keir Starmer went into victim mode, dismissing the outrage as simply part of a playbook of the far right. Same thing he said after a Muslim radical stabbed 8 children, killing 3 in a Southport massacre. And then we've got a tweet later on down in the story from this is from Tommy Robinson's account, and it says admin post, which means that while Tommy Robinson is in prison, he's got people who are posting for him. National disgrace, Keir Starmer has finally spoken about the mass call for national inquiry into child rape gangs, completely ignores the call, calls us far right, and then again proceeds to lie about Tommy Robinson, yet again nearly collapsing a grooming. Let's see. I don't know. How long is this video? It's 5 minutes. I don't want to listen to him for 1 minute, much less five. Hold on a second. I'm gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
All right. It just as soon as I mute myself, it started to fade away. So, all right. Starmer comes out strongly in defense against Jesse Phillips and in defense of Jesse Phillips and against Elon Musk. He says there are those spreading misinformation and lies about Phillips and child sexual abuse are not interested in victims; they are interested in themselves. This is that kind of like wishful thinking that is endemic to the left, and not just the UK left. I mean, it's endemic to the left and of all stripes, right? They project upon us what they think because they can't understand. Uh, they can't understand what's going through our heads and what motivates us. The left, typically can't understand the right, but the right actually is fairly good at understanding what's going through the left's heads. Oddly enough.
Yeah. I gotta address something from the chat. Did I see Piers Morgan trashing Tommy Robinson? Yes. Let me just make sure that I make something clear here.
Yeah.
Piers Morgan is an utter fucking snake. Piers Morgan absolutely knew this kind of shit was going on. He was a journalist in England at the time, and he turned a blind eye, choosing instead that he would rather like to do political tabloid stories. No one should be paying attention to that man. He shouldn't have a show. He shouldn't have attention. He shouldn't have like a place to lay his head at night.
Just remember, Piers Morgan is to British media what Bill Maher is to American comedy, right? Does he say some things that need to be said from time to time? Yeah, absolutely he does. But it's like we were talking the other day about fighting against people that you have like at a 70%, kind of overlap. He's one of those kind of people who, like Bill Maher, who we might have a 30% overlap with, but he still disagrees with 70% of the shit that you and I hold dear, right? So we shouldn't, I don't give him any oxygen. Like I don't listen to him. I'll see clips of people I like on his show from time to time. But ultimately, um, yeah. I'm with you there. Gangs of predominantly Pakistani men have been raping and torturing vulnerable underage girls over the past 3 decades. And by the way, while they do rape other Pakistani kids, for the most part, they're raping white English girls. And the reason why is because nobody cares. There is, the local Pakistani community is actually actively protecting their own daughters, so those girls are at less risk.
Well, that's not exactly a fair way to state what's happening. They're at less risk because this is politically and ideologically motivated. This is a part of political Islam. They're
Well,
not
no,
going
no,
after the Pakistanis because most of the Pakistani girls are Muslim and therefore
no,
off
no.
limits.
To say that is ignorant of the culture that has spouted this, right? This is the same. This is the same
Okay.
culture. No, this is the same culture uh, that gives us Hindu, gang rapes on buses, and then when they're done with the girl that they rape, who is almost always another Hindu girl, they just murder her because that way they don't have to deal with it. Um, and only sometimes are they brought to justice. This is a Central Asian problem, regardless of what religion. Now, that being said, you're absolutely right. Political Muslim protects its own and targets the weak and the unprotected in close proximity. In this case, white girls who, a lot of times they're the runaways, the girls that fall through the cracks. We've all seen these types of girls in our communities. Sometimes, when they get older, they turn into, they're for the streets or for the pole or something like that. But in England, uh, you know, the way they get preyed upon is by Central Asian men who groom them and then gang rape them. Phil Coglin's over here for 9.99. He says, "I would never have imagined the consequences of not voting for Nigel Farage have come to bite Brits again so quickly." Yeah, 100%, right? Nigel is absolutely focused on these kinds of issues, right? Um, he is culturally the most significant British politician since Winston Churchill, if you ask me. And he single-handedly carried Brexit across the goal line, and then Boris Johnson absolutely, Boris Johnson and all the other kind of Tories at the time were like, well, Brexit is something we're going to have to deal with, not embrace, but just kind of mitigate and deal with. Um, so I mean, yeah, Nigel Farage is I'll be honest with you. I think he and the Reform Party will. This issue is going to push the Reform Party into power, if you ask me. Let's see. Pakistani men has been raping and torturing vulnerable underage girls over the past 3 decades, with several independent inquiries having indicated systemic failures to investigate the crimes because it would be racist. 3 separate reports published in 2013, 2014, 2015 revealed the local politicians and police covered up these rapes. Now, Watcher, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is just how it's like, hey, listen, if we tell the truth on who are doing these crimes, then it's going to make our policies really look stupid. So we're going to have to say that, oh yeah, rapes are occurring, but we can't report the race or the
Yeah.
religion of people who are involved.
Well, and it goes deeper than not just reporting it. Like they flat out, girls that were trying to report this were refused reporting and told that
Right.
they were just trying to get men in trouble because they wanted to be prostitutes. And like there's so I I need to very carefully not say everything that I feel like saying on this.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. The good news is this is the UK, and I have not seen the UK yet demonstrate that they can come to America and arrest us for saying mean things on the internet. Um, Let's see. Peter Shays Helicopter Tours for $5 over on Rumble says, Scott, as a former infantry officer, I trust you will be honest with your men and enlisted 11B brethren. Do you buy an 18X being incapable of constructing something more effective? I believe that an 18 X-ray will build exactly what he wants to build. And I get the feeling that if he is not a patsy, if he is not I think one of the likely causes is this guy, was having potentially a psychotic break, and he did exactly what he intended to do. Now, I don't know that I believe that. I'm just saying that is one of the likely explanations given the evidence we have. That being said, there are a lot of things that I have a lot of questions when it comes to that whole Vegas thing. And I'll be honest with you, like every other great conspiracy theory out there, we have incomplete information, so it's hard for us to make an informed conclusion. So, Watcher, am I stuck for you? Is my
No, everything's
screen
working
frozen?
fine. No, you're good.
I'm just gonna look over it. I'm gonna look at Rumble here real quick. I see you in the chat. I just want to make sure that if I'm experiencing it or everybody else is experiencing. Yeah, I guess I was frozen on Rumble there for a while. But it looks like I'm back to moving around on Rumble. So if you guys notice any freezing again in the future, just let me know. I'll do what I can, but I don't know that there's much I can do. All right. Peter Shays Helicopter Tours for $5 says, I mean the Cybertruck guy and the 18 Zulu, not 18 X-ray. Yeah, 18 X-ray is a guy who joins the Army with the contract to become a Special Forces guy right out of basic. I joined at 30 and was E4 Mafia, but even without my 20 years of plumbing and gas experience, could have made something way more effective. I don't buy it. Sorry if addressed. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those kind of things, man. We don't know. And I get the feeling that there's concerted efforts out there to not let us know all the info on that. Well, almost like a lot of the other stuff that's going on out there. Joe, how you doing, brother?
I am doing both well and good at the same time. How are you?
We're just getting a little distracted from the from the topic at hand, which what else is new. But in this case, it was the chat's fault, not mine.
Hey, can I further distract us?
Yes.
Watcher, if you scroll back up in the CFC chat, I shared that video of the Boy Scouts here at the camp, and I think that's a great palate cleanser as we're getting into all this craziness, right?
Yeah, I agree. Let's watch that, and then we'll go on to our next odds and ends.
It's not a small scroll up. Let me.
That's okay. Take your time. We're all right.
So, Joe, how you been?
You know what? I've been good. I've been a little bit busy, but good. We're getting ready for next weekend's Ground Rod 2 course here. So I've been out doing that, getting everything around for that and setting up rooms and et cetera, et cetera. Here, check out this video. Let's do this first. It's the famous library.
Looks like they're having a good time.
They were, and that lady who made those breakfast sandwiches, they were fantastic, by the way.
Whereabouts were they from? They were from locally. They're in Montana.
They're from Kalispell, Montana. We do it every year for them. No charge for them to come on out and do it. And they actually end up helping us out with a lot of service projects.
Well, this goes in line with what Hunch is saying in his super chat. Hunch give us $10 to say Joe's here to announce the new Camp Ponderosa dog shelter and sled training center.
Listen, if Wanda and Hunt continue to talk my wife into accepting more dogs here, I'm going to punch them both. There's our fire engine, the Camp Ponderosa fire truck.
Yeah, how much snow you got on the ground there, Joe?
Right now, I've got about 14 inches. I got 2 more today.
All right. So. Yeah, we've got we had about 8 inches here in Louisville. But the funny thing is so we get back, late last night from our road trip to North Carolina, and the snow, it's weird. It's like 4 inches of snow, and then about a half an inch of ice, and then 2 inches of snow on top of that. So yeah, so there was this layer of ice in the middle, so it was this weird crunchy snow.
Well, how is your wife doing after dropping off a child at college? Is she okay?
My wife is doing all right after dropping off a child from college. It's a tough thing to do, but at the same time, it's kind of like, she's on her own now. We've done everything we can.
Nice. Anyway, that camp, we had a whole bunch of kids here. They moved a bunch of wood for us. They built some racks and shelving for our new surplus store that we're going to make. And you know what? This camp is pretty cool. And yes, for those who like that truck, we do have our own fire truck, and it is very awesome. And I have the keys to it, which is even better. So, pretty cool. It's got a whole bunch of hose on it. Everything works on it. It's full of water. It's ready to rock. We're going to turn it into a technical at some point. We are going to turn it into a technical. I'm probably going to keep the water cannon on it, but I'm also going to add a 50 cal mount. It's just the way to be. So good times.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember, unfortunately they have bastardized the organization formerly known as Boy Scouts. Was it mixed gender?
Not this troop. This troop stays pretty close to the original intent. And me and one of the other dads walked them through some fire starting, and we had them build fire starters, and then we actually had them make fires out here, and we had a great time with them. So these guys still actually do outdoor stuff. Good people. No Carano, we don't need a Dalmatian. There are enough dogs running around here. We don't need more. So.
Aren't Dalmatians kind of like ornery a little bit? I've heard that they're a little on the bitey side.
You know what we do have here? We have these very cool Council on Future Conflict coasters throughout the building.
So, look at that.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Hold on. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
Wrong direction. Little coasters. Pretty cool. So.
Yeah, that was one of the little perks from last summer's event that we had. Handing out some of those, and I think we hand out half of them, and then we kind of retain the other half for our personal stockage.
For our own personal use. Well, at my desk, I have a couple of them, so
very good.
Pretty nice stuff.
All right. Okay, so let's jump right into our next odds and ends, shall we? So, Watcher, I'm going to let you talk about this one because it's.
Okay, well, dead internet theory isn't just real, it is meta corporate policy. For those of you unfamiliar with dead internet theory, it's the theory that for a great many years, a lot of the interactions you've had online are not genuine people. They are automated for various different purposes, whether that's a company trying to automate positive reviews for themselves, or people trying to push political narratives via online engagement. And then Meta just flat out comes out and ruins the game and says, not only is this a thing, we're going to set up AIs to make it more pleasant to interact on Meta, since Meta is a dying hellscape. And that did not go very well for them, as you might expect. People kind of freaked the hell out. Meta immediately tried to delete them. It's crazy to me. So be on the lookout, be aware. A lot of the quote grassroots internet activism isn't grassroots. So
Yeah, that's the funny thing, like the only use case that Facebook has for me is when I want to find out things about people from my life that I don't have like physical contact with anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and so I get that people like do the whole Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff, and that's where that would probably be more of a thing. But you know, Facebook has very little utility for me, because I think a lot of this kind of bullshit was just kind of built into it. But I mean, it's just me.
Yeah, I think this was just their public announcement of it. I'm sure that it's been going on for a long time, the fake account thing. And I'll tell you, I'm like you. I used to keep in touch with people that I don't really keep in touch with. And it constantly reaffirms to me that I hang out with exactly the number of people from high school that I should. And that's one.
Yeah.
So, and if I ever feel really bad about myself, I just head over to Facebook for like 6 minutes and I end up feeling pretty darn good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I I I can't remember the last time I went onto Facebook for something that like it was my idea. The last time, every time I go to Facebook, it's like I have to go there because a link is taking me there because it's something I'm looking for or something like that. You know what I mean, Joe? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like I want to go to Facebook. It's because
Well, I
Well,
go there
hey,
because
hold
my
on.
wife constantly tags me and stuff over there, so I have to go over there. Well, my
You're
wife and one member of our chat, Wanda, uh, tagging me and Mrs. Tactical Wisdom in puppy pictures, which she should not do. But anyway,
uh,
wait, y'all
I,
have Facebook?
I, y'all are looking over the one truly useful thing that Facebook's there for. If you want to know what the boomers are talking about, that's what Facebook's there for.
Yeah. So I don't understand the first part of that. Well, why would I care about what the boomers are?
Well, I mean, fair point, but I mean that's the use case.
Fair enough. Well, but I will say that Facebook has done a really good job of like making half of their product completely irrelevant to 90% of the internet, but then making their other product like literally where the majority of teenagers and 20-year-olds spend their time, which is Instagram.
Facebook has become MySpace, and just kind of how it works
But without the cool music.
without the cool music. Yes,
Right,
You're on
right.
my top 8, Joe. I just
and
want you to
without
know that.
Tom. I mean, I miss Tom.
Yeah, I mean,
All
if you
right.
could sit down and explain to Turn of the Millennium me that it was a choice between Tom or the Zuck, with all the knowledge we have now.
Tom was probably an AI person too. The
Who's this
first one.
Tom of which you speak?
You never had a MySpace?
I never had a MySpace.
Tom
I
was
was
friends with everyone on MySpace. He was everyone's first friend request.
he was the
when
he was the creator of MySpace. And so
when you got to understand, like MySpace was like hitting its stride, what, 2004, 2005, 2006,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I
yeah,
was in Iraq for most of that. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, we
I
had
had
it
other
for intelligence gathering purposes in my office at the time. So let that be a lesson to you all.
fair. All right. Moving on to our next story here. Turkey threatens U.S. Kurdish proxies. Matter of time before they're eliminated from Syria. So, gosh, Joe, it's almost like we've talked about this. It's happening slower than I've expected, but it's not that it's not happening. It's just I think that Turkey has decided they want to make sure that when they strike, they can be effective, because Syria is a kind of a is a kind of a, I don't know, chaotic place these days.
It's
Yeah, it's
almost like
almost like
it's being ran by terrorists and Islamists,
exactly right. I was gonna say it's almost like Turkey had something to do with that too.
right?
American and Turkish policies in Syria are increasing and clashing in the open in wake of Assad's ouster on the December 8th. As we detailed last week, the Pentagon is building a new base in the heart of Kurdish territory in northern Syria near the Turkish border, which the U.S. has since denied despite videos showing the military building up. This huge provocation to Erdogan government, given the Turkish army and the proxies are at war with the U.S.-backed Syrian Kurds. In fresh Monday statements, Turkey has put both the Kurds and, by extension, Washington on notice, saying it's only a matter of time before Kurdish militants are driven out of Syria. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan emphasized that Turkey will not accept any future Syria with the YPG in it. The YPG makes a core of its U.S.-funded and trained Syrian Democratic Forces, but Turkey sees it as but an extension of the outlawed PKK. Both of those are a little bit true, right? You know, Joe, PKK definitely has connections with the YPG, but to say the YPG is the PKK, that's... I'll be honest with you.
That's a bit of a stretch. That's a bit of a stretch.
Of the three of us, I've had the most time on the ground in Syria. And from what I saw, the reason why Turkey doesn't like the YPG is because the YPG is the most effective fighting force over there. And it will not just let them roll in to kill the PKK guys that, you know, whenever they want. Now, that being said, PKK has had conflict with the YPG on more than one occasion, which this kind of puts the lie to the fact that they're one and the same. Because the YPG does not like terrorists, especially after having to fight for their own existence against ISIS. So this is one of those kind of things, I don't blame the YPG. Now, that being said, the YPG are inherently a Marxist organization. That's how they got their root. Now, they are not as ideologically Marxist now as they used to be, but that's like saying the Azov are not as ideologically Nazi as they once were. It's kind of like that original sin, Joe, tainted by something that, let's be honest, the YPG guys that I talked to, and both of them were like, sub high school education guys, they didn't know anything about Marx and they didn't know anything about communism. At least they wouldn't admit to me that they did. But I'll be honest with you, after talking with those guys, I pretty much believed them. And the other thing too that I told that, the translator who I had long conversations with while I was there, he basically said, listen, most of these people just want they're Kurds and they want to fight back against ISIS, and the YPG was basically the best deal in town. And so, this is one of those kind of things. But ultimately, I don't care, because I don't think the U.S. has any business being in Syria.
Syria, the HTS thing proves the ultimate American dream. You can go from being wanted by the United States government with a $10 million bounty on your head to being the president of your own country in a matter of days, if you apply yourself and work really hard at chopping other people's heads off. It's just a true success story.
Yeah, that's right. Even you too can have your Syrian dream come true. What's with all the nighttime streams? Joe looks like he's up past his bedtime.
No, Joe has had a very long week with the weather and the preps for classes that are coming up next weekend and all of that. We have a rather extensive road network, and we've been plowing it every day for days just to get it to a drivable state. So it's running this camp is a little bit more than I might have than I thought it was. So that's okay though.
That's all right.
That's okay.
All right. Let me go down further into this. Conditions on Syria have changed. We believe it's only a matter of time before the PKK YPG is eliminated, he said, calling the group to lay down its arms as soon as possible. The PKK empire of violence built on the Kurdish people. So here's the problem. I'm reading this Turkish guy. The problem is the Turks want to subjugate the Kurds. They don't want the Kurds to be self-determining. They don't want them to have any ability to self-govern, no autonomy, nothing. And essentially, they want to swallow up Kurdistan as part of Turkey, and then basically have full dominion over the Kurdish population.
What's
That's what I
interesting about that is Greater Kurdistan is way more than just Turkish territory. It's northern Iraq, northern Iran, northern Syria.
Or Syria, right? It's literally 4 countries. And you know, for all the flaws in this plan, the Kurds are probably the largest stateless people. You know, they're not stateless per se. You know, they are a people without a state is probably a better way of saying it. And I'm sure there are other peoples without states out there in the world, but none bigger than the Kurds that are spread over multiple countries like this. But ultimately, like I said, I don't care. This is not U.S. business. As far as I'm concerned, we could just leave this whole thing.
I was just going to ask if Scott is frozen for anyone but me, but Scott, you are frozen in an epic pose. It's very good.
You know, it's this is not the first time tonight, so I'm you know, what can I do? Probably nothing. Oh, is it me coughing or something like that?
No, it's like you're in the middle of a sneeze.
A yawn.
A yawn, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah. All right. Anyway, anything else on this? I mean, I see nothing but trouble in Syria going forward, but that's nothing new. We've been talking about that for a while.
Pretty much.
All right. Let's move on. Now, Joe, this is a good one for you to be here for. LGBT liberals discover Second Amendment over fears of being thrown into camps by Trump. Now, I thought this whole FEMA.
First of all, why do you think I need to know this?
Well, this is what this tells me is, leftist guerrillas tooling up is what I see when I read this.
Yeah, they've already known about the Second Amendment, but a bunch more of them are getting guns. I'm going to be honest. They've done a lot more training, the left, through the John Brown gun clubs and the PSL folks and some of the other groups over the last 4 years than a lot of us have. So understand that.
Yeah. Philip Coggins for $10 says, you mean they tell me that Turkey is an expansionist power? CNN told me they don't exist in this world anymore. Yeah.
The Greater Ottoman Empire would like to make a return.
Oh, yeah. And definitely the caliphate is something that Erdogan has his eyes on, but I don't think that he's going to make it in his life, though it won't be for a lack of trying.
Correct.
Greater Kurdistan is like the traditional Sioux lands that span over multiple jurisdictions of these nations. No, there's no such thing as traditional Sioux lands. There's American land, and there are the conquered Sioux that we allow to continue to live on those lands.
Keep in mind that the average American's concept of the noble savage is completely false. So there was not much noble about the Native American tribes.
Well, in fairness, we did there a lot that happened after the whole Trail of Tears and the setting up of the reservation system. There was a lot of injustice by the U.S., both state, NGOs, state, local, and federal government. That was, let's be honest,
injustice or over retribution or wrongs that were done by the other side too.
Well, and it goes to everything like the Indian schools and, things like that, because that shit happened. Now, the irony is that America was way better about it than the Canadian government. The Canadian government was actual policy to literally de-Indianify almost all of their native population, whereas in America, it was just kind of like catch as catch can, more of an orphanage system, but,
So
anyway,
we spend a lot of time on reservations out here, and If you want to be depressed, go out on the reservation.
Oh yeah. The reservation is a hellscape that we have of our own creation, for sure.
Reservations are literally communist, and you see what happens. The average class does not get richer, just the people at the very top.
Yeah,
and everyone else continues to get poorer.
Yeah, they can't even own land on their own reservation.
Correct.
It's absolutely, we should do away with that whole system.
Yeah.
All right. So let's read a little bit about the LGBTQ community. Now, here's the thing, Joe. I mean, you're right. The liberals have always had, or more so the RevCom progressives have always had their pro-gun groups, right? But a lot of the rank and file are true believers that guns are bad, right? We shouldn't have guns. Nobody needs a gun. This only police need a gun. And I could call the police, and then a gun shows up to solve my problem for me. Well, what they forget about is all the problems that happen before the cops show up. And they're starting to realize that maybe the cops aren't going to be on their side. Shock of all shocks, right, Joe? This is something that the conservatives have had to learn the hard way in the last 8 years. That, gosh, maybe the thin blue line is not always going to be your friend. New gun-toting groups, including the Liberal Gun Club, the Socialist Rifle Association, Pink Pistols. Oh, I love all these names. Claim they've received thousands of firearm training requests since Trump won in the 2024 election. Joe, this reminds me of all the people who lined up to buy guns after the COVID lockdown started. Remember that? Like the gun clubs gun shops were in big cities. They were like lines on them.
But that was the right, not the left. So,
well, I think that was just regular people, like unaligned, like irrespective of right or left, just regular people just realized that, the world just got a lot less safe, and I need a way to protect my family. But you're right. This is absolutely them realizing they are losing political power, and so they want to try to use firearms as a way to maintain some level of political power.
Well, I think that everyone needs to realize what that means from a future conflict standpoint. Your odds of domestic civil conflict goes up on a daily basis.
Exactly right. And the last thing you need is a Karen who's scared and now is going to be packing. Because,
no offense to the Karens in the...
No offense to Karen. That's correct. This is not about you, Karen. This is about the pejorative Karen that just lives out there in the world. 3 months before the election, that's when the alarm bell started to ring. A 24-year-old transgender activist told the outlet, adding that armed leftists should now be able to fight back in the event of hate crimes or terrorist attacks. The activists, they already do. Most of the violence is committed by trans activists and things like this.
Keep in mind, too, that to an LGBTQ person or trans activist or anyone on the left, violence means hearing words they don't like.
Right. So, an argument is violence. Yes.
Yes. Disagreement is violence. So.
The activists added minorities should be able to take Second Amendment rights seriously, since minorities that are armed are most likely to be legally oppressed. Left-winger Matt Thompson said he purchased his first gun in 2016 after Trump was elected the first time, though he claimed he was inspired more by mass shootings at the Pulse Gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. People I've been seeing on the left and the gay people who are out purchasing guns for the first time, it's all about self-defense and fear. Yeah, fear is a wonderful reason to have a gun. He claimed, we're not looking to arm up and storm the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, neither did conservatives.
Nobody was armed at the Capitol either.
I know, right? Except for the guy who murdered Ashley Babbitt. We just don't want to put in concentration camps. Okay, yeah, that's happening. The FEMA camps are coming for sure.
So Trump that's just silly, right? That tells you they're buying into all of the nonsense that the media is feeding them about Trump opening concentration camps. He's not. No one wants to take care of those people. Nobody wants to feed those people. It's crazy.
Let's see. Trump has not once suggested he's anti-LGBT. In fact, Trump became the first Republican nominee to mention LGBT issues during his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention in 2016, shortly after the Pulse nightclub shooting. Hey, listen, if just in case you didn't know this, if you're a liberal catching this broadcast, which probably not many do, we care about individuals. We don't care about groups, right? Individuals have the ability to be whatever they want to be, as long as they act like responsible, respective members of society. And let's be honest, Joe, you and I may be offended by certain things that people with the LGBTQ signifier next to their name may do. But then again, we offend each other on a regular basis because, of our predilections on what kind of alcohol we like to drink or whatever. So if I could overlook the fact that I may not agree with your choices on bourbons,
I was going to say, I almost
could
stabbed you over the bourbon argument anyway.
I could probably, I could probably overlook whatever it is somebody does in their bedroom, as long as they don't fucking tell me about it and they don't rub it in my face. That would make me, as an individual, not like you, not some sort of broad brush painting type of thing. We are individualists in this movement, not collectivists. The collectivists, that's the other side.
Josh Clark is dangerously close to getting banned from the chat. And second of all, to any leftist who watches this, listen, I'm all about you exercising your rights. You just need to stop trying to take mine away.
Exactly right.
I'm not opposed to anyone buying and owning firearms. Knock yourself out. That is a fantastic thing. I do ask that you get trained so that you are safe with it. But I absolutely want you to have
and responsible. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like you always say, you see these people where you've got like a black guy with a gun, and then somebody retweet, I bet this scares, conservatives more than anything. And what you have is a bunch of conservatives commenting on it saying, no, it's awesome that he's got a gun, or whatever.
That's perfect. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Because that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. As long as you're responsible.
Men have the ability to defend themselves. That's just the way that's just life. So.
LGBT leftists aren't the only ones with deranged fantasies about being rounded up by Trump's fantasies. Representative Debbie Dingell, Democrat in Michigan, also bizarrely claimed last year that she might end up as a prisoner in one of Trump's alleged internment camps. She says, I worry enough when he talks about what he's going to do to his political enemies, but he has talked about them in this plus different groups of people, she said. So, this just goes to show that there are these fantasies that people have about
Trump. Let me just say, though, that I'm from Michigan, and Debbie Dingell probably should be worried and should be in prison.
But that's not rounded up to an internment camp, Joe. That's putting prison after due process.
That's just going to prison for the things that her and her family have done over the years. So, if you don't know, the Dingells, they always win because of the last name. John Dingell was a U.S. senator for a long time. Then his son took over, and then she took over. And it's just because everyone goes into that voting booth and says, "Who do I vote for, honey?" The Dingells, and it just keep on going, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy. I don't think she actually took her husband's last name until he was no longer in office, and she wanted to run for office. Then she changed her name.
Yeah, just me. I get you, brother. Don't expect me to hang out with them. Sure, you do you, Scott. I'm riding my bike as fast as I can, and I don't have time to worry about how they are riding theirs. Yeah, that's exactly right. I just, I don't care about that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I don't talk about that stuff. So if it's somebody like me, if I should never know, you're the cut of your jib when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it's none of my freaking business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Karen, I agree with this too. The government needs to stay out of people's private lives. Now, Joe, this goes back to I'm going to continue to bring up this theme of projection, because when we get into our main two topics, this is going to come up quite a bit. the reason why leftists project the fact that they think that Trump's going to throw them into camps is because they want to throw Trump into camps. They want to throw us into camps. This is how they think, right? Because Joe, they don't look at you as Joe Dolio and me as Scott, right? They look at us as Trump supporting mag idiots or whatever. They, conservative nut jobs, domestic, violence perpetrators, something like that. So, Hutch Dirty Roofer says for $5. Being on the road as much as I am, I found the best place to meet genuine people is the range. Some of the most open places, and one new to the area. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You have to be responsible around firearms. And so if you're a responsible person, you already have a leg up on probably, 50% of the population. So it generally only gets better from there. That being said, you do realize if somebody's a Momo pretty damn fast when they start acting a fool on the range.
Yes. But see, out here, I only know of one actual gun range around here because everyone just goes out in the great outdoors and there's the gun range thing. But yeah, it is a good place to meet people and like-minded folks. I've been going to gun stores and putting up class flyers, so pretty cool.
All right. Moving on. Anything else? Anything more on that, Joe?
I have to comment on what Daisy Girl Williams just said. Dingle sounds like something in Djibouti. So,
it's been a couple of weeks since we talked about.
Yeah, I kind of missed a Djibouti joke or two. Yeah. Chinese are still trying to get into Djibouti, but they just don't have the legs for it. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yes, absolutely. All right. So we're going to talk about the LA fires, Joe. I don't know if you've been paying a whole lot of attention to this.
I have, and I actually just set the whole world on fire by making an implication. Let me just say this. The problem with the Christian church today is they're afraid to say the mean words. And I said the mean words, and one lady said, "You just lost a Christian follower." Yeah, because I told the truth. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed by fire. I'm just saying. Anyway.
I'm sure there were nice people in Sodom and Gomorrah too.
I'm sure there were. And I'm not saying that LA deserves this or anything, but it is where all of our media and all that comes from that has put us in the place we're in. It sucks no matter what, but hey, maybe there's a reason why bad things happen there.
You got any tactical-wisdom.com info to drop for us before we jump into the LA fire story?
Well, related to the LA fire story, apparently no one has read any of my other stories after each natural disaster that has occurred about the stupidity of not having an evacuation plan. Because guess what happened? Nobody had an evacuation plan. And what do I always say is going to happen when everyone tries to evacuate at the same time over the same road? The roads get gridlocked and you have to abandon your car and get out on foot. And that's what has happened throughout LA. So we're going to write yet another article warning people, hey, have an alternate route that's not the one road that everyone else is going to be.
Everyone else, yeah, absolutely.
And take back roads and learn some ways out on foot and have some supplies on foot. I know we just talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I think we need to do it again. And I put out the article that you suggested about what you should have winter preparedness wise on there. So we checked that out. And a couple of quick and easy things. We have class coming up here next weekend. Kay from Combat Studies Group is doing Ground Rod 2, where we talk about digital tradecraft, how to protect your communications from government or other eavesdropping. I'm going to be doing a knife and stick class on Friday, so if you're going to be in the area, come on Friday, and we'll beat on each other with sticks and knives. And then getting ready for our big class in February that we always do in the spring, where we do Scout and Recce down at Matt's place. I think we're going to run that the 1st through whatever. And 18 through 20, though, I'm going to do a fieldcraft class just beforehand. If you have absolutely no experience in this, fieldcraft is a way to start so that you perform better at Scout and Recce. So check out my website and Matt's website for links to those classes. Cool stuff going on, man. Cool stuff.
So for people who attend the fieldcraft class, I mean, they should bring a long rifle with them for that. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not on the required gear list because you can do the class without it. But for actual practice moving, you need one. You
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah, because you're almost always going to be armed in a tactical situation like that. So
Correct. And it's like also why in my book I always say that when you're out rucking or hiking or whatever, you should always be carrying something in your dominant hand to prevent you from using that hand for anything but what's going to be in it when the time comes. I know you can't like go to your public park and carry a rifle because a lot of people will freak out. So instead, use a walking stick in that hand or carry something in that hand to keep you from using it. So,
yeah.
and Rick, everyone who comes to class gets the stick. Stick on stick. It's going to be a great time.
All right. Let's jump into this fire story. So we're going to start off with something that just kind of a little bit of an overview. Unprecedented fire scorched 3,000 acres in Los Angeles area, forcing 49,000 to evacuate. And so here's just a little summary of what's been going on with this. So it's fast-moving, wind-driven fire sweeping through the Los Angeles area, forcing mandatory evacuations over 49,000 residents. Fire remains 0% contained. That's a big deal. The Palisades fire, caused unknown, has burned nearly 15,000 acres, while Eaton fire has scorched over 10,600 acres. AccuWeather estimates that 52 billion to 57 billion in preliminary damage and economic losses. Governor Gavin Newsom has deployed 1,400 firefighters and declared a state of emergency. Nearly 300,000 residents and/or commercial customers are without power in the LA region. Worst fire conditions will peak Wednesday morning. Malibu residents warned about potential evacuation. Fires are 0% contained again. I think that is so telling, Joe. That there's so many ways that they can prevent fires, and they just refuse to do it in that area. California largely, but specifically in and around LA. I mean, literally, what is it? Every 5 or 6 years, we get a big LA fire story where you see the beautiful mansions going up in smoke. Just because environmental regulations won't allow for proper fire breaks and the removal of brush or the removal of deadfall or the removal of trees, thinning out trees and things like this. Joe, I mean,
There are consequences to poor forest management. Here at Ponderosa, every time a tree comes down, we move it and cut it and get it out of there immediately for that very reason.
Yeah.
And they don't do that in California because we're going to let it be natural. Well, the way that nature has consistently rejuvenated forests is through fire. And when you just let all that dead and down stuff lay on the ground,
it
doesn't
just gets
take
worse
much to start a
right.
fire. Yeah.
Well,
and, I think we're going to find that climate change in this is someone's first name and last name, because I think it's probably going to be human started. So.
Yeah, it's some bum, right? With some homeless person with a campfire is especially. This is another reason why when you have this tinderbox of undergrowth combined with a massive homeless problem, where literally every underpass and every wooded area turns into a homeless camp. This is just bound to happen. I mean, you can't even be surprised when it does. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the areas where the fires are. You got the Hearst fire up in Santa Clarita. You've got the Eaton fire, which is just kind of east of Burbank along the hills there. And then you got the Palisade fires, which are kind of, this is the western end of that same hill section where you've got like the Hollywood Hills. So like if you're looking at this map, you got Santa Monica right here at the elbow where the coast goes from kind of north south to east west. And if you go in here, this is where you've got Beverly Hills and you've got Hollywood. The Hollywood Hills are further in here. So all those beautiful areas are what's on fire essentially. Let's see.
The good news is if the fire goes through Compton, you won't be able to tell the difference.
Well, but the sad thing is there's no trees in Compton to burn down because they already chopped them all down for houses.
That's true.
But see, here's the irony. Go to the next map here. Go one more further. So, when you're looking at what's been affected, this is not like forested areas. These are domesticated like grids of houses that are directly been impacted. This is where all the rich people live.
We're acting like this is a new phenomenon in America, and we're going to say, it's all climate change. But the San Francisco fire, the Chicago fire, there have been great urban fires in American history.
Yeah, so this is right where Topanga Canyon is at, right in between Malibu and Santa Monica. Anybody who's, I've never lived in LA, but I've been to LA enough to know the general lay of the land. And come on, we've all been watching TV shows and movies and everything for so long that I think this area is still relatively familiar to everybody. So it's sad to see it happen, but at the same time, you get exactly the government you deserve. And that's what's caused this. Let's see. There's some tweets here later on that just kind of show some. Let's show some of these tweets here that have got some video in it, so people can get an idea of the scale of this. I mean, look at that. It's like just a mountain of smoke just sitting there over the hills. And why anybody would be driving towards it is,
Yeah.
Not
you might have to go that way to get on the highway that goes out of the area.
And then Karen Bass is the ultimate diversity hire. We're going to be talking a little bit more about her. But this video here is pretty damning.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
With the left and the right and then the left.
Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
Push pause. So I mean, she. Can you mute the? Yeah. So I mean, this is what happens to incompetent people when they are put under any kind of stress. They absolutely knuckle under. They have no kind of fight. They've got no spine. They've got no steel in their soul, right? I mean, even over the hill guys like me and Joe and
I'm not. You might be. I'm not.
Come on, Joe. We're in our 50s, brother. I mean, yeah, we have very high opinions of ourselves. But that being said, we are not the men we were in our 30s. Right. But we've got more spirit and fiber in a piss bowl of urine than she's got in her whole body.
I would at least punch back with something. I'm like, yeah, I might be incompetent, but you're ugly, and that's never going to change.
Well, but right? Here's the thing, Joe. I mean, the irony is this is her realizing that this might actually be my fault.
Yeah, and you know what? She's also trying to figure out, because she's a leftist, how I can get this man arrested for having the nerve to do this to me in my face on national TV. But she absolutely has no idea what to do. She has no business being in the job she's in. Same with the fire chief. I mean, this is absolutely a ridiculous situation to find ourselves in. No water in the fire hydrants.
Here's the interesting thing, Joe. a shot caller would think the way you just said, right? Like if she was a leftist shot caller, she would be like, "How dare
Yeah.
this motherfucker?" But
Yeah.
she's not even doing that because she is not a shot caller. She's a diversity hire. She is a front man put in by her party to show that a black woman can. I assume she's black. I don't know, but she seems to be to me. That a diversity hire woman could get out there and do it just like anybody else, and she can't. She wasn't ready. She is essentially the Kamala Harris of LA.
Yep.
All right, sorry, I went a little hard to paint there, but
She has those curls a little too tight. Loosen up a
yeah.
little bit, maybe.
Watcher, the next tweet has got that picture that you used for our thumbnail. I think this is pretty. This is really just shows you the devastation. It's just blocks and blocks and blocks. I mean, it's this Joe. This looks oddly like what we saw in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Just the complete like total destruction. I wonder when we're going to see the government come in and try to buy up all the land, or like, sorry, we're going to make a park out of this. We shouldn't have houses in this fire-prone area.
Right.
I'm sorry, I missed Derna's super chat. He said that Derna for $10 said in Florida they have big hurricanes. They change building codes. In California, they have a fire and they blame people for using cars and do nothing. Seriously, even if it was climate change, why do nothing? Yeah, 100%. Hunch says for $5, at least Kamala had a talent. No. Hunch, I think what you meant to say is at least Kamala has a mouth. But don't they both? I don't know. I fail to see the difference. I shouldn't say that. That's gonna get me in trouble. All right. Further down in the story, it talks about insurance. So this is via Bloomberg. It says in California, nearly 500,000 people have turned to the state's insurer of last resort, the FAIR Plan, which has doubled in size over the past 5 years. The state is now exposed to nearly $458 billion in potential damage. Mark Gongloff writes for Bloomberg Opinion. The neighborhoods in the past, the Palisade fires and other fires burning this week have been among some of the hardest hit by insurer defections in recent years. Gosh, Joe, it's almost like if you can't self-insure, you probably shouldn't own a house in this area. I mean,
right. Exactly right.
I'm sorry if that means poor people can't own houses there, but it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And seriously, when you have a house at that level, insurance becomes kind of an afterthought, right? If you own a house like that, you're capable of replacing it yourself, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're rich and you want to build a house in an area where it's going to flood or it's going to have a hurricane or if it's going to have a fire, okay, cool. I mean, you say, hey, it's a $500,000 house, and if it burns down, I'll just build a new $500,000 house because I've got the money. Okay.
I see the questions coming up in the chat about this, about insurance companies pulling out. So was this on purpose? No. The insurance companies pulled out because of the communist government of California.
Right.
The cost of replacing the houses became so high that the insurance companies needed to raise their rates, and the state would not allow them to. So the insurance companies said, okay, we'll take our business elsewhere.
Right.
It's not a big, massive conspiracy here to burn down this neighborhood. It's the government continuing to ruin the lives of Californians. I saw a very interesting billboard driving around Montana the other day, and it said, if it didn't work in California, it sure won't work in Montana. Boy, that makes good sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Hey, Joe, one of the things that I think what you said is really important, right? Everybody wants to look at big business, whether it's big insurance, big pharma, big whatever, big oil, as problems, right? 9 times out of 10, these big business groups will act exactly the way the market allows them to act, right? If they are allowed to be corrupt, then they will be corrupt. If California, when an insurer says, listen, California, we'd love to insure people's houses, but you got to like have better forest management. You've got to have risk reduction in order to make it unlikely that this fire is ever going to happen. Well, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, well, it makes it a lot easier. When our actuarial says that we have to charge this and you won't let us, then we're leaving. That's it. We're out of here. That's not a conspiracy. That's just the market creating or deleting a demand for the services of a company.
Yeah, if I have to operate at a loss, I just won't operate there. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, so just I will remind the chat, like, one of the things that leftists do is they always look for boogeymen to blame, right? They don't try to understand the bigger problem. They look for somebody to blame, and they go for that. Don't do that. Look deeper into the issue. Do your own research to the extent that you're able. Try to understand the issue. Put yourself in everybody else's shoes, and then make a decision, right? Invariably, you will almost always find some sort of Marxist, socialist, progressive political policy has put us right where we want, or right where we are. Let's see. The fires in LA. This is from Donald. This is Donald Trump from Truth Social. He says the fire in Los Angeles may go down in dollar amount as the worst in the history of our country. In many circles, they're doubting whether insurance companies will even have enough money to pay for the catastrophe, let alone let this serve and be emblematic of the gross incompetence and mismanagement of Biden-Newsom duo. January 20th cannot come fast enough. I mean, I totally agree with this sentiment. And then elsewhere, libs of TikTok, watcher, if you want to play this video, this is a very prideful video. Talks about the LA fire chief being hailed as the first female and LGBTQ fire chief in Los Angeles. She says her priority is DEI, not fires. And there she is at this perversion parade. Yes. So what is it, Joe? In a week's period of time, we get the diversity hire in Las Vegas, or I'm sorry, in New Orleans, and then we get the diversity hire, or hires in California, completely letting the people of their constituencies down.
Yeah, it's absolutely silly. That fire chief said that her intent was to hire more women and LGBTQ firefighters. That's actually an illegal statement, because that means then that you would have to be discriminating against other qualified applicants who don't have those additional qualifiers. Therefore, you're in violation of the Civil Rights Act. Civil Rights Act is supposed to make everything blind to the other aspects of someone applying for a job, other than experience and skill, but it does not. It does the actual opposite.
Yeah, go down to the next tweet, watcher. Click on this one here. Let's see what her priorities are.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
Why? Why would you assume that just because you're gay, you can't be a firefighter? It doesn't make any sense. It's victim ideology. I have to get extra because of this. Who you sleep with is not a job qualifier. Seriously,
Joe,
unless you're a
this
porn
this goes back. This goes back to that whole idea of projection, right? Like they think,
Yeah.
and they discriminate against people in groups. White men, straight men, Christian men, these types of things. They will paint with broad brushstrokes over what we are, and because they do that, they assume we do that about them. Hey, if she can
So,
carry the hose up the tower as fast as the men and meet the standard, I think she should be a firefighter, no matter
so
if
that's what
she.
I was just going to
If
say
she
though. Can she?
I have
Uh,
no idea.
so
And I'm not going to.
one of the more common calls that firefighters go on is some very large person who fell down and needs help getting back up. How many more firefighters is it going to take if your entire fire crew is women than it would take if you had a couple men on there?
Well,
This is one of the dangers. You're actually putting people at risk by saying, I want my fire department to be more this than that.
She looks like she's old enough to potentially have gotten her start back in the 90s when when as a woman she would have had to been able to hang with the standards. But just because she was able to be a firefighter physically in the 90s doesn't mean she needs to be the chief of firefighters for LA County. She was clearly promoted beyond her potential, and is now we're reaping the rewards of that. And on top of that, she at somewhere along the line, and maybe in the beginning, she became ideologically captured, and now it cares more about her Marxist ideology than she does anything else.
Yeah. Oh, Gene Rogers, that's terrible. That is absolutely. She probably hasn't touched a hose in a long time. You're absolutely.
That's what's different now is we are committed as a team, as a partnership with the legislature and other state agencies, including now the federal government, no longer a sparring partner, but a working partner. Federal government, where we're not addressing headwinds, but tailwinds in terms of the support, a memorandum of understanding, doubling our respective commitments to vegetation management and forest management and prescribed burns, to support the Biden administration with resources, not just rhetoric, to help this
pause. I want to just show that we've got a point of diversification here on the council.
I'm about to throw the glove down on this one. Go ahead.
Mexican Ironman member for 23 months says, for the record, even though none of you the council are Mexicans, I'm 100% confident the three of you can eat tacos as well as me. #truth, LOL.
What are you doing the last couple of weeks of July? Because we're having a big event here, Mexican Ironman. And down the road at the A Bar, they have Taco Tuesday. We're going to see which one of us can eat more tacos at Taco Tuesday. So come on out, man.
I'm just saying.
I think we need this to be videoed. I think this could be a whole episode. So this could be a thing.
We should do our own version of getting YouTubers out to Montana to shoot guns and to learn radio stuff and all this kind of stuff. So if you've got a favorite YouTuber out there that you're in the chat of, let them know about this event and let them know that Joe's going to be hosting both a YouTube event where YouTubers get to shoot guns and then also eat tacos.
We're going to eat tacos.
Did I just sign you up? Did I just sign you up for something there, Joe? I mean,
you did. But Shield Field Days is a thing. Last year we helped them pick off the inaugural one. The next one's going to be bigger, and I want to get more people.
Do we have a date yet?
Last 2 weeks of July. I will have a date by the end of the week. The boss is away, so me and Brandon can just kind of pick one. So we'll be good to go.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah. The only problem is we ended up changing the date literally at the last minute last summer. So apologies there. We won't make that mistake again. I won't be able to make it this year, but I will be there in spirit, and we'll figure out a way to.
I'm gonna be here. I'm pretty sure Watcher will be here. I think our favorite Texan may be here. It's gonna be a good time. So.
All right. Let's move on beyond this story because we got some other stuff. Watcher, you've kind of put together some of the kind of the best and brightest of acts, some videos and some memes and whatnot. Um, go ahead and if you want to pull the first one up.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses push pause around us go.
All right, I want to just set this up first before. So this is Rick Caruso, billionaire real estate developer. I think he ran against her, against Karen as a for the LA mayor. He said it's like a third world country. So let's go back to the beginning and listen to what he had to say.
The people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
It is. I'm still struggling with no water in the hydrants. I don't really even know how that's physically possible unless you emptied out the system.
The reservoir. Yeah, right. Yeah. So this post that Watcher's playing right now basically says the firefighters in LA are fighting fires with anything they can find because there's no water in the hydrants. Karen Bass never bothered to refill the reservoir. So you play that video again. I don't know if there's. Yeah. See how he's picking it up with a funnel, with a cone. He's
traffic cone. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just groundwater. That's crazy.
But the entire purpose of a fire hydrant system and the premise behind it is that it's a positive pressure system. There's always pressure in it, and there's always water in it. And if you take a wrench and you open it up, then the water comes out. How on earth do you possibly not have any water in there, but residents still have drinking water? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. There's a video of her out there saying, Mayor Karen Bass says, if you need help, information can be found at URL. It basically says, LOL, this idiot DEI hires worse than Biden. I mean, she doesn't even know what a URL is. So she's spelling it out like you might not know. Well, just because she's a fucking moron doesn't mean we all are.
Right.
All right, let me go on to the next one here. That's you playing. Yeah, this is just... Oh, I want to read this thing from Anna Kasparian. Actually, is it a? I think it's This is a tweet from her, and it's talking about this video where it's talking about the one billionaire owns most of all the water in California. And it talks about how the Resnick secretly seized control of California's public water supply. and we're not going to watch that video. But ultimately, this is Anna Kasparian. So this, what I always love, leftists on leftist violence. California, I don't even know if Anna Kasparian could like legitimately be called a leftist anymore, because she's become literally a foil over on the Young Turks. I don't know how much longer they're going to put up with her. California, especially Los Angeles, is controlled by the Democrats. They are responsible. There's no more passing the buck. That's a pretty sobering point of fact for her to remember. Our mayor, who was in Guyana as fires exploded in our city, cut the fire budget by $17 million. Endless amounts of money funneled to bullshit scammer homeless nonprofits. We're the highest tax yet. We have encampments and squalor everywhere. Even worse, we don't have enough firefighters to respond to an absolute disaster we're experiencing right now. Rather than conserve the record rain we got last year, we drained it into the ocean. We are a failing city run by a sick excuse for local government. You want radicalized people against modern Democratic Party? Send them to LA.
Well, the Palisades fire, I'm still struggling with the hydrant situation. The Palisades fire is right up against the ocean. Do you know what we fight fires with on Navy ships?
Seawater.
Seawater. Drafting operations means taking your fire engine. A fire engine is nothing but a giant pump attached to a tank. You take one hose and stick it in the ocean on one side of the truck and run a hose out from the other side of it to the other trucks. You can do this. It just takes a little bit of work, a little bit of know-how. So.
All right. Just kind of looking around here. Moving on to the next one. Let's see, Johnny Midnight. What's this one? Oh yeah, you already played that one.
I am in Voltadena. I am at the fire line of the Eden Fire. This is one of the many fires going on in Southern California right now, which has been destructively sweeping through neighborhoods.
The fire is quickly pushing south. Please evacuate your homes immediately.
People who are right up to the fire line are hosing down their entire houses with water in like a last-ditch attempt before they have to leave to hopefully try to save their house. People are evacuating, carrying their possessions, not knowing once they leave if their house is still going to be there once they're back. It's an apocalyptic scene. Friends have been evacuated. Friends don't know if their house is still there. My friend is guessing his house is gone.
Walking to my house, which is about a mile up this road. Status of our house, I don't think that there really is a way to know. There are indications that the school near our house is burned, sporadic houses around us that have burned. I saw a video about an hour ago of a number of houses on Fair Oaks here that have burned farther up. So we'll see.
The California Fair Plan will only allow me about $330,000 in fire insurance. My house burns down, I cannot rebuild. I can't buy it. I got to give it to the state or whoever. They could put that out and save this house right here, but they're not. They're just letting this burn.
If you're not from California, what causes the conditions for fires like this to spread? This one is a two-factor one, and it's kind of a perfect storm of two things coming together. LA hasn't had any rain yet this year. We're in January, and we haven't had a single rainstorm. It is the second driest wet season on record. The second reason this is happening, there's a weather phenomenon in Southern California called the Santa Ana winds. It's dry air that comes down from the desert, and it's very, very fast. So LA experienced winds up to 80 to 90 miles per hour. Last night, you can see in the neighborhood, the woman in the red checker over there just came back to her street from last night to see her house on fire. And when she asked the fireman why he wasn't putting it out, he explained that they had run out of water, had to go and refill and come back. It's a dire, dire situation. If you're in Southern California, I hope you're okay.
Watcher, play the video. Let's see, is it it's the last one on that page there, that C. Kordestani. This is crazy footage here. Yeah, that's the one. So it says here, this is by far the craziest video from the fire in Los Angeles. This guy is filming huge walls of fire surrounding his house that they're in, and there's another person and a dog. I have no idea why they didn't evacuate or what happened to them. This is crazy, Joe. I mean, this is a perfect example of people like their bias just keeping them from doing what they know they need to do, right? This normalcy bias, this optimism
Well, we have
bias
a fire
that
department. I
people
don't need to
have.
worry about this. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is exactly what gets people killed. And in any kind of dangerous situation, because it's like the danger's right in front of them, but they literally can't see it. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, man, if things are getting bad, go. Just go. And take your dogs with you on the first try. They're part of your family too. So
yeah. All right.
no, it's not CGI. The fire is real.
Yeah, this is real. This is a Mario in the Fall quote. So Joe, so we talked about what the hell's going on and why it's happening. You know, we talked about the human kind of element, whether it's the politicians that are responsible or whatever. But what I want to talk about now is it's not like, Joe, this is a total surprise. We didn't see this coming. There's no way anybody could have known this. I mean, well, wait a second. Trump's 6-year-old California fire critique still spot on. Let's play this video.
Billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty.
I don't think it's shared.
It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry, and instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them, and we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars to fix, and the destruction is incredible. So I think California ought to get their act together and clean up their forests and manage their forests, because it's disgraceful. What's happening should never happen. I go all over the country and I meet with governors. The first thing they say is there's no reason for forest fires like that in California. So I say to the governor, or whoever's going to be the governor of California, you better get your act together, because California, we're just not going to continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying because of fires that should never be to the extent. They were telling me in a couple of states, I won't even mention their name, it's like a flash. Some grass will burn. It'll be over in minutes. They'll lose 2 acres, 3 acres. At the most, they won't even lose that. And here we are with thousands of acres and billions of dollars every year. It's the same thing every year. And they don't want to clean up their forests because they have environmental problems in cleaning it up. It should be the opposite, because you're going to lose your forests. You'll lose it. But it's costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars because of incompetence in California. So the people, I'm speaking now for the people of California, they don't want to see this happen. They're getting destroyed. And it's hurting our budgets. It's hurting our country. And they just better get their act together. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm sorry, I just went off like a 9-minute tirade. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
He's 100% right. They could manage the forests out there. It's just something you have to do if you have a lot of forest land. You have to clean out the dead stuff, or this will happen.
Well, we heard from the future president. Let's hear from the current one.
We got notification yesterday their home is about to burn down. Today, there's a lady still standing. I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. I have a granddaughter, and baby girl, baby boy. So I remember.
What is he saying? I can't even understand what he's saying. It's not that it's a terrible.
Nobody knows what he's saying.
He said he's a great grandfather today. One of his grandkids had a child, and that was the important thing to bring up as you're talking about thousands of people losing their homes.
Joe Biden never misses an opportunity to make whatever's going on about Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, that's life in the Biden crime family, you know.
It's crazy.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about, Joe? I mean, let's talk. let's talk. Hey, let's talk real quick about just some basic, prep type things for people in these types of. If you're in an area that has some sort of existential threat that just is part of the DNA of the area, what should people kind of keep in mind? What kind of prep should they have?
As soon as I acknowledged that Stevie J just won the chat, he acknowledged a grandchild. That's off brand for him. But well done. Well done. The first thing you need to do, and this is going to sound like a crazy thing, everybody, but bear with me here. Get out a pen, write this down. Look at a map. This is really the first thing you need to do, right? Look at your map. Those big blue and red roads, we don't want those. Those are the roads that everyone else is going to be on. You want the other roads. So first thing you need to do is look at a map and decide how you can get out of your area. Yes, Laserham, area study. The other thing too is decide how you can get out on foot, because just like down in Florida, the roads became so jammed that people abandoned their vehicles and left them right in the roadway and took off on foot. You need to have a plan of how you can get out of there on foot. The other thing, well done, Jay Clark, well done. His son Bo did die in a forest fire in Burma while fighting the Japanese. You're absolutely right. So you also have a way to get out on foot. The other thing you can do is think ahead. These people who didn't think ahead and left their vehicles in the road, what did they do? They slowed down the fire response for everyone else. So it made the fire worse because the fire department, instead of fighting the fire, had to go get a bunch of big caterpillars and move these vehicles out of the way. I guarantee you the fire department was not very nice to the vehicles that were left in the road. Your vehicle is probably smashed at this point. So be thinking about that. The other thing that you need, absolutely, and I just posted one on Twitter a little while ago, is a fire blanket. You can wrap that around you or your stuff and get out in a fire. If there are flames all around you, wrap yourself in a fire blanket and you can traverse that fire. So you need something like that. And your first aid kits all need to have burn treatments in them. Absolutely must have. So I guess that's the best thing. Look for ways out. Look for ways out on foot. Have fire blankets. Have first aid supplies.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but before you start planning, you have to know what the threats are, right? I mean, how many people live in these areas and are just completely oblivious to these types of threats, right? Whether it's a hurricane threat or fires. I mean, if somebody moved to California, to this area in the last 4 years, maybe they didn't experience a fire. So this is just something that's not been on their radar, and that's because they're ostriches with their heads in the sand, right? You can't be one of these people who is just completely disconnected from the world around you.
Well, another thing too is that it's an innate human fear. Fire has been ingrained as a bad thing in human beings for 30,000, 40,000 years. We're naturally afraid of fire, as we should be, right? It's dangerous. So a lot of times, if we've never experienced an out of control fire, we tend to panic and freak out. So,
Mexican Iron Man, my favorite YouTuber, for $10 says, 2 weeks ago, I had just reread Tactical Wisdom 1, and as the LA fire has evolved over the last 48 hours, I swear every single page and every single chapter makes this a case study for everything in Joe's Tactical Wisdom series of books. Right. Yeah, Joe, a lot of people think of Tactical Wisdom, they think of like, oh, well, if I'm fighting against the hordes of the apocalypse, right? No, this is not Tactical Wisdom is not about that. Tactical Wisdom is about just keeping your head switched on and understanding that threat is around us. And if you're prepared and ready, not only in equipment, but training and also just mindset, your chances of having a positive outcome are greatly increase.
Like I say in chapter 1 of book 1, we don't prepare for one particular event. I don't have a set of preps for a forest fire. I don't have a set of preps for an earthquake. I have preparations for the second and third order effects of whatever it is. no food, no power, no mobility, and people behaving badly. If I have a plan to address those, I'm good no matter what happens, right? So that's the key point of it. And got to dig in, got to buy those books. So I think the entire, what is it, the Tortilla Militia? I think every member of the Tortilla Militia should have one, have a copy of the books. So just throwing it out there.
All right. Let's move on to our next topic, shall we? Joe, so there's been a lot of talk about America expanding its borders into new areas, specifically.
Pardon me while I roll my eyes.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, we had the Panama Canal. Somehow that, people just, I don't know why we should have some right to the Panama Canal. And then, there's this whole idea that Trump's been talking about ever since his first administration that, hey, Greenland, it would be in the national interest for America to acquire Greenland. And then, we had this back and forth with Trump and the former Prime Minister of Canada, talking about the 51st state of Canada. And we've also got this whole thing about the Gulf of America now. I mean, I'm there's a lot of stuff I like in all this, but I thought it was just kind of interesting. There definitely is enough of this happening to where I'm noticing a trend, and that is of the idea of America expanding from what it is at the moment. And I'm not necessarily for or against this. It's all about the situation for me. And so I'm still kind of making my mind up on this. So let's look it over together and we can maybe get a little further down the line on this. The truth behind Trump's bold bid for Greenland, China, rare minerals, space, and why it's not a joke. Donald Trump made clear that he was deadly serious in his intentions toward the barren Arctic territory of Greenland on Tuesday, saying that he would not rule out the use of force to seize control of the icy island. It is a sobering reminder that Trump has talked up his interest in the Danish dependency since the at least 2019.
What publication is this?
This is the Daily Mail.
You know why they're saying this and that it's not a joke?
Oh, yeah.
They want you to believe Donald Trump is insane and crazy.
Right.
Donald Trump never said using military force to take Greenland. He has not said that. That is absolutely ludicrous.
He did when somebody asked him a question if he would rule it out. And of course, Trump always does that thing. He said, listen, I'm not going to rule anything out. That doesn't
I want
mean
to point out, though, that Jay Clark said it was Greenland. It is now Orange Land. And
hey, Trump Force One landed earlier this week. So I'm just saying.
But he was there for something totally unrelated. So.
Yeah. And insiders said that they might have once looked like a joke is actually a matter of vital national security and has consumed the president-elect for years. Think of it as a start of a Trump doctrine prioritizing security in the Western Hemisphere. Wow. Is this basically a revitalization of the Monroe Doctrine? Make the Monroe Doctrine great again? I'm all for it. Greenland comments are very much not a joke. Neither are the Panama Canal comments, he said, referring to another Trump idea to reclaim the Panama Canal, which I believe we should. We never should have given it up in the first place. They reflect the larger return of foreign policy that is really grounded in the traditions of the Republic. By the way, Joe, if we take the Panama Canal, we need the entire zone. We can't just take control of the administrative running of the Panama Canal.
Right.
And that means a return to U.S. military power to that area.
Do you know how many jobs we used to have in the canal zone?
Oh, it was unbelievable. Yeah. And there was a great jungle school down there.
Not locals.
Yeah, there was a great jungle school down there. Now that we employed a lot of Panamanians in the canal zone, but they were under there. It was just like how we employ Koreans on Camp Humphreys in South Korea. They were working for the U.S. government. They reflect the larger return to a foreign policy that has really grounded in the traditions of the Republic and the focus on the Western Hemisphere and the concept that we call hemispheric defense and the Monroe Doctrine, which is deeply rooted in our history. He's absolutely correct. Greenland sits at the prime strategic location along the shortest route between North America and Europe. It already hosts a U.S. military base. And in recent years, Washington has cast an eye over its rich mineral resources, in particular the deposits of rare earth metals that could be a game changer for American green technologies. The irony of this, Joe, is that Europe will there are so many barriers to develop rare earth metals within territories controlled by the EU that it's literally off limits for that type of development. If we were to take control of it, it would become basically a gold rush almost for rare earth metals, especially if we have the correct. It's you need regulations because that's a pretty dirty type of industry, but at the same time, the regulations have to be common sense. They can't be these onerous, regulations that say, yes, great, you've now applied to have a rare earth refinement and mining and refinement facility. It will be 15 years before you can build it. We have to do, 11 billion environmental impact.
Keep in mind that the
mitigation.
United States has the same restrictions. So if we took over Greenland, we still could not exploit what is there.
Well, but that's just that. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But that goes hand in glove with what he's saying about reducing regulations so that we can exploit, these same types of minerals within our contiguous borders as well. So it's not just Greenland where he's talking about.
Let me address the important questions being asked in the chat about this. During the summertime, it's Pencott Badlands, and in the winter, it's Pencott Arctic Zone. All right, carry on.
All right. Let's see.
The Duchy has already researched this for our expansion plans into the Grand Duchy of Montana and Alberta.
Come on now, Joe. Don't be giving any hat tips. So we don't talk about military strategy. That's what I learned from Donald Trump the other day.
And the Duke has already warned me about OPSEC this week. So
let's see. This has become very serious. It's not a joke anymore, said Jing Zhu, professor of political science and international relations at Bucknell University, a Chinese guy at American University, saying, "Oh no, this is worrisome and serious." Unlike turning Canada into the 51st state, one part of his minerals, he added, another part is the fear of China could strike a deal with Denmark to use Greenland in some way. Yeah, that's actually a very real type of thing. That would be absolutely within the Belt and Road kind of framework, money for access to minerals and things like that. China's become more actively involved in the Arctic in recent years, he said. So I think that this big power competition actually has already expanded into the Arctic region. What started with Trump as an eccentricity in 2019 has now been taken up by a swath of the Republican Party. Joe, I don't see anything wrong with the idea of us taking Greenland. I don't know if it's even doable. I don't think that anybody would ever consider any kind of forceful measures. I just feel like
the Danish might want to hold on to their land.
Well, no. I'm saying
I don't think any 900 or so.
I think that nobody on the American side is seriously considering using force to take it.
But my point is that the Danes took it in about somewhere between 950 and 1050. They're not just going to let it go, right? It's a strategic asset for Denmark. It's a strategic asset for NATO. Denmark's a NATO member, and about the only contribution they can make to NATO is to let us continue to run our bases there. I don't see why we have to take it over. Taking it over means taking on an almost 100% dependent population that is living off of handouts from the Danish government. Let the Danish pay those people, not us.
Yeah, it says here in the early 17th century, Dano-Norwegian explorers reached Greenland again. That's again, meaning like they went there a long time ago and they came back, but it really wasn't part of them. Now, so Denmark didn't separate.
That's a silly part of it to argument about. to argue about. It's been in Danish hands, let's just say then, for a couple hundred years. It's actually been
Yeah,
in
a
it for
couple
much
hundred years. I
longer.
think that's right. I think that's
But I'm
right.
not really sure why we need to take it over. Why can't we just invest in the minerals and do all of that? Let them.
Well, okay. The reason why is because the Arctic is about to become one of the world's major shipping routes, and Canada doesn't have the ability to defend itself from Russia or China, the two other major players in that Arctic route. That's why.
But they are. They're part of NATO. They're part of Denmark, which is part of NATO, so they are defended. As is Iceland.
Defended by the U.S. because that's the only person in NATO that can really operate in that area. I mean, even the Finns and the
Danish can, the Norwegians do, and the UK does. But here's the thing: this whole Greenland and Canada thing is meant to distract you from the areas where we really need to actually make progress, like dismantling the FBI and all of that. You're going to get some weird win on Greenland and be okay with that, and then you still have the FBI in 3 years. So it's a distraction, guys. It really is.
I don't know. I look at it differently, Joe. I look at it as different parts of the same thing. You know, walking and chewing gum at the same time.
We don't have we can't solve our own problems first. We gotta take on somebody else's problems.
I mean, you know, we got a lot of problems. That is the problem. We have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems. And I agree. I think we have to, there are certain problems like the FBI that we have to prioritize. That being said, you don't stop looking at the problem that you're going to take care of next year because you have problems this year. But yeah, I get it. I hear what you're saying there, Joe. I don't trust NATO as far as I can throw them. So I don't know that I would put any stock in any of these countries being able to defend themselves.
And again, it's giving the left ammunition to say Donald Trump wants to start a world war. He wants to go to war with our ally Denmark. We need to stop playing into their hands with this kind of stuff.
Well, I see. I look at it. I see it the exact opposite. Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's the entire point of that article, was to make it sound like Trump was about to invade Greenland.
Yeah, but I don't allow people to put words in my mouth, and so I don't think we should allow the left to do the same thing to Donald Trump. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight it. Yeah,
whether we allow it or not, they do.
I know. We just have to make sure that we call it out, right? You know, Donald Trump absolutely didn't say he was going to use force. He said that he wouldn't comment on anything like that. The only serious thing that I've seen about Greenland is that he potentially might buy it, you know, like for several $1 billion. And I bet Denmark, if the price is right, will take it.
We couldn't possibly spend that money on something better for our people.
Well,
maybe helping rebuild North Carolina.
I'd like to see us build the wall, you know. I mean, so there's a lot of things that we should put money into first. That doesn't mean that, you know, like I said, that, you know, year 2, year 3, we don't have plans for that. So that's actually been, you know, you bring up a good point, Joe, is that, you know, we lose focus on the priorities, but the fact is we don't have the ability to look in America. We don't do a good job of looking like next year, the year after next, and the year after that, right? You know, China does a really good job of that, and they've been fucking cleaning our clocks because of it.
So if you think we should take Greenland, then China should take Taiwan.
I didn't say that
expansionism, right?
Right. No, I got it.
All right, let's leave Taiwan out of it. China's seizing of atolls and turning them into Chinese territory is okay with you then?
No, because I think
expansionism is expansionism.
I disagree with that. I think
then
it's better when we do it, bro.
I think if we pay a fair price for something and they agree to give it to us, that's not the same as China seizing land that belongs to somebody else.
And yet no one has agreed to give us anything.
I got it. That doesn't mean you don't talk about it. But I'm not drawing false equivalencies by saying that China seizing something is the same as a legal deal that two countries come. You know, it's like, for instance, when you know, we didn't seize Alaska, we bought Alaska, and nobody in Russia and America, there's no contest over that because it was a legal. You know, it's kind of like the when we bought the the Louisiana Purchase from the French, right? I mean, that was a
And in both
legal
of those
transaction.
times, those nations came to us and said, hey, man, we want to offload this. No one has came to us and said, we want to offload Greenland.
Well,
And
I
if
mean,
Greenland says
Greenland
no,
made a move.
then that's the end
Greenland
of it.
made a move for. I did say that Greenland made a move for independence.
Greenland
I
moved for
mentioned it.
independence. That's not the
Right.
same as saying, gosh,
Well,
I
look,
hope
man,
some other power will come and colonize us.
They're, you know,
That's
they're,
not
they're
independence.
Just, they're trying to become a, what do you call it, a free agent on the market. You know what I mean?
All right. Well,
I'll stop. Yeah, whatever.
There's more to this than just Greenland, though. So let's move on from
Yeah,
that.
there's Canada, which is even dumber of an idea.
Actually, I was thinking more of the Gulf of America, which I think is I don't know how I feel. This is marketing. This is not expansion. This is marketing. And I understand historically why it's called the
We're
Gulf of
wasting
Mexico.
time on this. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, this is the president that everybody is so excited about, and yet this is the things that he's putting in energy into. So I think
Our show is
we
about
need to
future
understand.
conflict. I don't think this is a conflict.
I think that each one of these could cause a future conflict. Each one
And yet you think they're all good ideas.
No, I don't think that they're good ideas. I think that they're ideas that have some merit. You heard me in the beginning when I said I'm not sure what I think about this yet, because I really haven't looked at all the kind of ins and outs of it. Ultimately, I'm not an expansionist. I don't believe in America as an empire. I feel like we should focus on American problems first. That being said, if you can articulate a reason why one of these things has, like for instance, I think that there's a really strong argument to be made about Panama, right? And that's not about acquiring Panama as a 51st state, but there's reacquiring the Panama Canal as sovereign American territory.
By Jimmy Carter.
Exactly right. And so if one of these things is legitimate, then you have to at least look at, well, is one legitimate and the rest are bullshit? Well, if that's the case, then okay, then that's what you come to. I'm just telling you that I haven't made a decision yet. I'm listening to what you have to say, Joe, and I think you make good points. You know, but you and I are not the end all be all on any of these issues. So I'm just kicking the ball around for the audience to be able to kind of make a better decision. You know, they may not like this. I see, like, this is a great example. This Gulf of America is, you know, you don't ask for trouble, right? You know, you don't buy trouble when everything is generally okay, because all this does is piss Mexico off, and this is why their smart ass president.
What it does is it begs China to rename the Pacific Ocean the Chinese Ocean.
I think
exactly
I just found
right.
out why we're doing it though, guys. It's for the extra bonus army every turn.
The bonus army every turn. You're talking about risk. Gulf of America, more like the American Mexicana. Mexican president says, and so this is not going to be helpful for her. This is the kind of thing that pisses Trump off, and this is her buying trouble as well. Mexican President Claudio Sheinbaum, the most Mexican name I've ever heard, hit back on President-elect Donald Trump.
I know, right? But hold on, Claudio Sheinbaum. I was like, the Jews don't run the world, you guys. And then Claudio Sheinbaum gets elected the president of Mexico.
The Zionist conspiracy is not a thing, says President Sheinbaum.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Come on, Joe. You're the biggest crusaders out against them Jew people. Don't feed them. Don't feed those trolls.
I know.
Obviously, the Gulf of Mexico is a name recognized by the United States. Sheinbaum said in Spanish. It's important for them to say that she said it in Spanish. In Wednesday during her daily press briefing, dismissing Trump's remarks.
It is a weird comment to say. Why wouldn't her press briefing be in Spanish?
I know,
She's the
right?
President of Mexico.
The only reason I can think about, because when I read this through the first time, I thought to myself, maybe she talked in both English and Spanish, and so they're. But if the whole thing's in Spanish, I don't know why they would mention that. Let's see. Then she gestured to a historical map showing control of North American territories in which parts of the contemporary United States were emblazoned by the name America Mexicana. Why don't we just call it Mexican America? She said sarcastically in Spanish. That sounds nice, no? Well, not really, because that's you trying to establish sovereignty over somebody else's country. There is no sovereignty over the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, she might have a little more claim to some parts of America than we do.
She has as much claim as the Sioux do, probably.
Yeah, as much claim as the Sioux do. Exactly as much claim. Exactly right.
Which is 0.
I don't care what the defeated lady down in Mexico City has to say.
I know. Yeah, she has as much claim as her military can give her. Trump said during a wide-ranging press conference in Mar-a-Lago Tuesday that he would rename the Gulf of Mexico after the U.S. because it's appropriate. The Gulf of America, he said, has a beautiful ring. Because I know I would be asked. I think that yesterday President Trump was misinformed. With all due respect to President Trump, because I believe I said with all due respect before I called you. Oh, sorry. What's that from? I can't remember. There's a movie where he says, "But I said with all due respect." You know the one I'm talking about? I can't remember what it is.
I know it, but I don't know what it's from. But yeah,
I know. It's just like on the tip of my. Anyway, I'm sorry. I apologize. She said, referring to the former Mexican president and his security secretary of public security, respectively, both who stepped down in 2012. Luna then sentenced last year to more than 38 years in U.S. prison for taking bribes. Yeah. So basically, he was talking about Felipe Calderon. And some of the things that went back and forth at that point. But no, in Mexico, the people govern. A spokesman for the Trump transition did not immediately respond to the request. The humorous exchange could forecast a relationship between Trump and Sheinbaum as Trump promises to. So here's the thing, Joe. I either think that he will respect her for kind of taking the piss out of him a little bit, or he will get kind of like pissy with her. So I don't know how to kind of view this. Ultimately, I feel like it's asking for trouble when you don't have it already. So,
well, so this is my whole point on Canada, Gulf of Mexico, and Greenland. Everyone tells me, yeah, but it's funny and it's fun to talk about, and he's trolling them. We don't run a nation's international relations by troll. We don't do things to be funny at that level. And we have to at some point stop, right? So
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of little things that I wouldn't say, but Trump is his own man, and he stands by his, I don't stand by his statements because I'm not Trump. So I also don't have to co-sign everything he does either. Moving on to something that has become a little more. I think this is really funny. This headline is really funny to me. Canadian leaders say Trump's talk about Canada becoming the 51st state isn't funny anymore. It's like, Joe, he makes a joke about it and it's like, ha ha. But then he continues to talk about it. And they got to be wondering, like, wait a second. Does he know something we don't know?
I'm going to roll back on the Canadians and be like, okay, but all the Canadian government is a placeholder for the British Governor General, and they're still subject to the King. So I don't really care what the Canadian government has to say.
I'll also say I've heard a lot less of that dumb fucking "we burned down the White House" talk lately, haven't I? Weird.
Derna for $5 says, I'll actually push back a bit and say, no joke. Trump's power in foreign relations comes from being unpredictable. It's good that, I agree with this. And so that's the reason why I don't have to agree with everything he says. But like, for instance, when he was talking about using military force, and he wasn't talking about with Greenland, he was talking about somewhere else. And the reporter asked him, will you rule this out? He says, no, I'm not going to rule it out. That would be stupid for me to.
Panama. But here's the problem.
Military strategy.
Here's a problem. The media keeps talking about how crazy it is and how he might do this and he might do that. They're going to inspire more assassination attempts, and one of them might get lucky. If you are killed by someone who gets incredibly lucky versus somebody who's incredibly skilled, it does not matter. You are just as dead.
Yep. Delta Force commandos were killed by people who had zero training. So
exactly right.
It doesn't matter if you're the best of the best.
Wait, that guy didn't go to a single brush beater class. That doesn't count.
I know, right? Let's see. Okay, let me read this. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's comments about Canada should becoming the first state are no longer a joke and are meant to undermine America's closest ally, the finance minister said on Wednesday. Don't care what the finance minister of a country whose government is in collapse. The country's point person on U.S.-Canadian relations said Trump was smiling when he first made the comment at a dinner in Mar-a-Lago with Prime Minister Trudeau in late November. The joke is over. It's a way for him, I think, to sow confusion, to agitate people, to create chaos, and knowing this will never happen. Yeah, this is one of those kind of things, Joe, where I feel like Trump is always throwing out the most extreme version of what he could potentially ask for, so that when he asks for something much more reasonable, they immediately agree to it. It's like, I get that it's
He's
a
all about the
negotiation
poor
tactic,
dude's
but ultimately, third order effects are what, like you mentioned, with agitating somebody who's going to take him serious. I think is probably not being considered in all this. So, once again, I'm not a billionaire businessman. I don't know. Trump keeps floating the idea that Canada should join the United States in the 51st state. No, just Alberta. Just Alberta. Saying Tuesday he would not use the military force to invade the country, which is home to more than 40 million people and is a founding NATO partner. Instead, Trump said he would rely on economic force as he erroneously cast the U.S. trade deficit with Canada, a natural resource-rich nation that provides the U.S. with commodities like oil as a subsidy. It's becoming very counterproductive, LeBlanc said, referring to Trump's rhetoric
Who's the
about
number
Canada.
one producer of oil in the world?
Say that again.
Who's the number one producer of oil in the world?
Oh, Russia.
No, it's the United States. Even with everything, still are.
I thought we fell behind during
We did, but we are back
years.
up because we have slowly creeped some things back up. They don't tell you that, but we did creep back up. They don't make announcements when they turn things back on because, like, oh crap, we need some oil.
Yeah, that's definitely something Biden wouldn't want to advertise for sure. Which I don't understand that.
I'm sorry, but Canada is still part of the United Kingdom. That is actually, yes, it is part of the Commonwealth, but it is still the head of government of Canada is King Charles.
Is King Charles. Is the Queen. I don't recognize this.
Yeah, I don't recognize King Charles. And the Canadian military does not report to the Canadian government. It reports to the Governor General of Canada, who is appointed by the King.
So anyway, Canada big mad over Trump making these comments. I doubt they will be able to do anything about it. Ultimately, they need us way more than we need them. And let's be honest, Joe. Like I said, if we could just get Alberta, I think we'd get all the Canada we need with that one acquisition. All right. And finally, let's talk a little bit about Panama, because this is a recent story since the
I'm disappointed that Watcher did not have Van Halen queued up for that very moment.
I know, right? That's such a damn good song. That entire was it 1984 that album song that song?
Ish, yeah, I think so.
Oh man, that is such a great album, man. There's like 4 or 5 just classics on there.
Just go ahead and jump. Anyway,
Hot for Teachers on there, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I could go down the music rabbit hole for much longer than I should. All right. Representative Dusty Johnson, Republican from South Dakota, will introduce a bill that would authorize the president to purchase the Panama Canal and put it under U.S. control, an acquisition that President-elect Trump has been pushing over the last several weeks. Johnson plans to introduce the Panama Canal Repurchase Act on Thursday, the Hills learned. President Trump is right to consider repurchasing the Panama Canal. China's interest in and the presence around the canal is a cause for concern. America must project strength abroad. Owning and operating the Panama Canal might be an important step towards a stronger America with a more secure globe. Joe, I mean, the reason why I kind of am apt, like the Canada thing, I just roll my eyes at, and the same for the Gulf of America. But with the Greenland and Panama, I say that at least that these strategies are focused around the Western Hemisphere and kind of home defense versus something a lot more power projection, like what we've been doing in the Middle East and in Asia and in Africa and even with Europe. If I'm honest, I mean, these are places we have no business. I think you could at least articulate. I'm not saying whether it's smart or not, or whether it's a good idea or not. You could at least articulate a cogent rationale behind why both Panama Canal and Greenland would be worthy kind of our attention, even if
it cuts almost 30 days off of surging forces from the East Coast into the Pacific.
Yeah.
Rather than having to go around Tierra del Fuego,
yep.
You can go right through.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Do you think there is a kind of a half measure that would be acceptable? Like, okay, listen, it's still your sovereign territory, Panama, but we are going to take control of the ownership and operation of the actual canal itself, and China is out, and China.
Yeah, how about we get Hutchison Whampoa out of the Panama Canal business?
Yeah,
and we get it. How they trick a lot of folks is everyone sees the name of what's the name of the company that runs Panama Canal? Oh, its name is Hutchison. Well, that sounds American enough or British enough. That's fine. It's Hong Kong based and it's owned by the PLA.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly think that the answer with the Panama Canal is reestablishing U.S. sovereignty down there. Basically the reversion back to the U.S. Panama Canal zone. Call it a U.S. territory, and agree to help.
Two Army bases, a naval base, two naval air stations, and an air base.
Yeah,
we had a lot.
We had a lot of infrastructure there, but we also had security guarantees for the country of Panama, right? I mean, so that we had it was very much like our relationship with the Philippines in a lot of ways. Now Panama was never part of the U.S. the way the Philippines was a U.S. territory at one point, and there was even talk of the Philippines becoming a U.S. state back in the 1960s, but of course that didn't go anywhere. Anyway, so I think that if this doesn't create conflict within the Western Hemisphere, it will create conflict with our international adversaries, such as Panama. Not Panama, but such as China and Hamas. I mean, Iran specifically, and other powers that are seeking to project their power within Central and South America.
Well, I think that pretty much everything further south is already lost. We were down to just having where am I thinking of? Colombia. No, Colombia. Next to Colombia. Yep. All we Venezuela. Had was other side of Venezuela.
Peru.
Nope.
No, I'm sorry, not Peru. Bolivia.
Bolivia. Thank you. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. Bolivia was our last friend there, and now that's gone. So we have to start somewhere, and a great place to start is the Panama Canal, and that gives us the opportunity to build a wall there, where it's much narrower than up along the southern U.S. border. And we can start there and start trying to slow down some of the illegal immigration that comes north. Sure, we'll still have it from Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and all of Central America, which is not really a thing. It's all southern North America. But we're at least stopping all of South America from coming through. It is a good stopgap measure. This one does make more sense than the others.
Joe, this is Joshua. Our friend Joshua Clark has provided us this new map of the United States. This is the map, evidently, he's saying, that is in the Trump headquarters. that depicts. I mean, it looks pretty contiguous to me. It makes sense on a map when you look at it like this. I'm just saying. It looks kind of cool. Gulf of Liberty, Freedom Bay, Washington, Patriot Bay, the American Ocean, the Gulf of America, Roosevelt Sea.
I vote that for the renaming ceremony, we drop a metric ton of tea into it.
Yeah, exactly right. We scattered tea around all the oceans around America. The James K. Polk DMZ, other America down. I mean, you got to admit it's funny, Joe. Come on. I mean,
Is it?
I think it's funny. I'm laughing.
Well, you're the ultimate arbiter, so it's funny.
I just love how there's the reminder that Russia is not that far away. When you right here at the top of the map, you got Russia right next to Alaska, which is exactly where it is in real life. So it's not like this is some sort of joke that Russia's that close to us.
The only thing crazier than us taking over Canada was the argument I heard this week that we have to take over Canada because if we don't, Russia will make inroads into Northwest Territory and it will become a Russian client state. And I was like, bro, what do you drink? Because it's probably good.
Yeah, I hate to say it. If Western Canada becomes a client state of anybody, it'll be the Chinese.
It would.
Yeah, that is seriously a thing. The one thing that I would say, when it comes to naming, like the Gulf of Mexico, something different than the Gulf of Mexico, I would point to anybody. Joe, do you know where the East Sea is?
Of what? I'm sorry, say it again.
The East Sea. Do you know where it is?
The EC.
East, like the direction, cardinal direction.
Sea? Yes.
The East Sea.
Yeah.
Where's the East Sea?
Korea. Yes.
Huh? Of Korea, right? But
Korea.
what does everybody else call it?
The Yellow Sea?
No, the Sea of Japan. The Yellow Sea is on the other side.
On the other side, yeah, right.
And
the Sea of Japan, because the Koreans refused to call it the Sea of Japan.
Well, so but they called it they've always called it the East Sea. This is like nothing new, they've always called it that. And
they've always been being invaded by Japan too. So
and China, and so
and Japan.
The irony is that sorry, I'm scratching my foot here. The irony is that like countries all over the world do this, right? They have their name for things that are close to them. Just because the Koreans name it that doesn't mean anybody else has to acknowledge that. I always told my wife, like when we first met, I said, why do they call it the EC? And she explained it to me and I looked it up and I was like, huh, no kidding. I was like, if you guys called it the Sea of Korea, after the World War II, we definitely would have gone with the Sea of Korea. But no, you had to go with the EC. And we're like, the East Sea of what? No, we're not calling it that. It's the Sea of Japan because we conquered Japan and now Korea is a client state as well. So we're going to name it the Sea of Japan. If they had called it
called the South China Sea, the Sea of Vietnam.
That's right. I'd be down with that.
Vietnam probably has more coastline in the South China Sea than China.
Well, Philippine might. No, I was gonna say the Philippines have a lot more than Vietnam, but yeah, I would agree with you.
Internal to the Philippines is called the Philippine Sea, and on the other side it's called the Celebes Sea. So they already have their own sea. You got to give Vietnam this one. Give Vietnam something. Throw them a bone.
Okay, I'm down with that. I would call it the Sea of Vietnam. I'd be okay with that. Anyway, so I don't know that this one is just like that one was the one that had me scratching my head. Like at least I think you could articulate Greenland. Denmark's never going to sell it ultimately, so it's basically a nothing burger, I think. But the whole like Sea of America, the Gulf of America.
Well, it sure gave everyone something else to talk about other than Elon Musk and Vivek and their desire to import lots of Indian people. It has had that effect.
No. It got people from stop talking about Keir Starmer and his rape gangs that he's
No, I don't think
supporting.
so.
That's what everybody's been talking about the last few days on X for sure.
Yeah, and they still are. I'm saying that the Greenland thing has distracted everyone from talking about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, because that's what was happening when these stories came out. Almost like there was a plan to change the conversation. But
Well,
anyway,
I think that would make sense though if Trump is in the middle of a uncomfortable argument between his supporters and his supporters that he would want to change the narrative. I could see that. So I don't disagree with you there. All right, gentlemen, anything else we need to mention before we call it? This has been a lively show. I appreciate the back and forth.
Yeah.
It's not too it's Midland. It's Midland, you know. Well, that's all I've got. Joe, looking towards the end of the week, anything you kind of see in your crystal ball?
We are seeing some organizing attempts on the left, but I don't know that they're actually going anywhere. We did have a very interesting comment by Iran last night that most people overlooked. But Iran said in the coming hours and days, the world will see shocking events and world-changing events. So I think that we should pay attention to that. Whenever Iran feels like no one's paying attention to them, they're much like Kim Jong-un, right? Somebody talk about me. They stomp their feet and they do something silly. So I would watch for that. I would also watch for something to come out of Yemen. We just gave the Yemenis a gift by releasing a whole bunch of bad Yemenis from Guantanamo Bay and sending them to Oman, where they will magically escape and slip back across the border into Yemen. So they're feeling somewhat like they've won something. So we shall see what comes out of that too.
Yeah. Watcher.
Keep your heads on a swivel. Update your plan. Make sure your bag's packed, just in case. You never know when the ridiculous fires are going to be at your door, or worse.
Yeah, that's a thing. All right. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of shakeout of this. I think there's going to be a lot of people in Los Angeles that get really pissed off about this fire. When rich people have their shit taken from them, they get upset. And you literally can't blame anybody except for the Democrats for this fire. So it'll be interesting to see if the heir apparent to Joe Biden, who is Gavin Newsom, takes it on the chin, or if he tries to slip away from this.
It's going to be interesting to see what the federal response to this fire is.
Yeah, well, there's enough time, Joe, between now and Inauguration Day to where Biden is absolutely going to own the federal response. So it's like, literally, this is an all Democrat, they caused the problem and they own the solution. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And if this continues for a couple more days, this will still be a real problem. After Trump takes power, it'll be interesting to see how fast Trump flies out to California and walks these streets and starts to show these people some actual love that they're not getting from the DEI hires that are managing the situation right now. So,
one, I don't think it'll work, and two, it's totally something he would do because more than anything else in the world, Trump wants to be liked by everybody. And he does silly things to try and be liked by people.
Yeah, you remember the thing I think back to with this as a comparison to this is when he went to Puerto Rico, for the what was it, a hurricane response, right?
Hurricane. Yeah.
And he got some kudos for being there and kind of getting in touch with the people, but he also drew a whole lot of negative coverage from the mainstream media. For tossing paper towels into the crowd or whatever. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in a situation like this. So I think the best thing he could do is just let the Democrats own as much of this as possible. All right, that's all I got, guys. Appreciate your joining me. Chat, thank you. You guys were spicy and active as always. Never change, please. We will be back, as far as I know, on Friday. Looking forward to it. Joe, Watcher, thank you guys for being here. Chat, you guys are awesome. If you haven't done it already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications and share the link out there. Let people know you're getting good info. These programs in the evening will end next week. I'm flying back to the States on Sunday, and I will arrive on Monday. So
You
I
are
don't know.
in the States. You're flying back to Korea.
I'm flying back. I thought I said I'm flying back from the States to Korea on. So I arrive on Monday, so I probably won't do a show on Monday. So we will probably be back up and running on Wednesday. More to follow on that, between now and then. But I think that's probably going to be the case. So Friday is a go. Monday is probably a scrub. So if you want to mark your calendars, and we will be back on the morning schedule starting next week. So I want to thank my contributors here for hanging with me in the evenings while I've been here in the States. One more night show to go, and then we will be back to our regular scheduled time. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Chat, you're awesome. And as always, stay safe.